Hello, and welcome back to Honorable Mentions. I'm Emily Varker,
And I'm Cameron Deshnod.
and it is December.
Yeah.
If you can believe it, this semester flew by.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's really weird, too, because I feel like this is the semester I can pinpoint that I've done like the most stuff in, right? I feel like we've had like a lot of events and a lot of different things, but this is the first one that I felt like, wow, I can't believe we're at December. Like, you know what I mean? The other ones, it was like, yeah, but the whole thing was a blur. It doesn't feel like a blur to me, but it's weird that we're here. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, it somehow feels like it shouldn't be December yet, but then you feel so tired that it's like, oh, it must be December. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Which is good, you know what I mean? Like I'm actually really excited for school to wrap up. Yeah, this has been
Yeah.
it's again weirdly quick semester, but a lot of stuff in it, so I'm tired. I'm ready to
Yeah.
get back to Philly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How about you? How are you feeling?
And I'm feeling pretty tired too, because senior fall semester, that's a pretty big one and a pretty busy one because it really does help lay the groundwork. It's really a semester, I think, where you lay the most groundwork for what comes next. Because the spring, there's still stuff to do, but it's a bit more, you kind of get to rest on your laurels a bit as a senior.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas fall, yeah, actually, like you still have to actively.
Yeah. Would you say well, let me ask this first. When is thesis day again? For our
Thesis day, I believe, is going to be February 12th,
Yeah,
2023.
that's so early. Because after that, I don't know if you're gonna feel the same way, but I mean, there's like capstones and stuff.
Right.
But after like the honors thesis is done, I'm like, well, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like without that, I'm gonna have such an easier time going forward. So I feel like spring's not gonna. This has been like a wrap up semester, wrapping
Exactly.
everything up.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a semester where you really have to sort of wrap things up. Whereas in
Yeah,
spring, it's like, you know what? I know what I'm doing.
yeah. I mean,
Because again, it's capstones, which isn't so much you have to learn new stuff, it's applying what you've already
yeah.
learned.
In my experience, it's just writing a paper. That's it. Like you just write a paper for the entirety of it. Which is not bad. It can be tiring, I guess. I didn't love the mass comm paper that I was writing. It was interesting, but just long, unnecessarily so. If that
Right.
makes sense. I got like, oh, let me reprove this thing over and over again to like make sure it's right. Like very much probably like your thesis, for honors.
Well, I'd hope I'm not just making the same statement over and over again and trying to reprove it.
Well, I meant more so that like, everything is in service of like your greater point. So it's just like, and now improving it from this direction. Now it's this direction. Like, I don't know if you do, but I get bored with that stuff. I'm like, we get it already, right? Gotta go through like 8 more steps, but like you get the picture. I hate the little rebuttal thing too. Yeah, those where you like
where you kind of like have to do a paragraph or two sort of arguing the other side.
Yeah, mainly too because I like you'll put it in, right? And it's like, all right, some of you are about to say this. Let me tell you why that's wrong. I'm gonna put that in, and it's like, who's gonna say that? Who cared enough to argue with me on this?
Right.
I was like, who when I'm like movies impact society, and I'm going to prove how. Who is going to be like, actually, I think like like and even like grandiose stuff. I think the only time that really applies is like, oh, science journals and stuff. Like let me prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is how this formula is meant to work and how it changes this and that, yada yada. Because people would probably argue against that because there's multiple competing scientific theories out there.
Right.
But for mass comm and like English is kind of like,
yeah, I was gonna say humanities is definitely very, I don't want to say very loosey goosey. In some ways, it's easier than like hard sciences or math or whatever, because there isn't necessarily one right answer. However, what makes it harder in some ways is that because there isn't one right answer you have to try and find an answer out of a sea of answers that you can argue well.
It's weird. It's a strange, like, I don't know if there's a term for it, but I'm blanking. It's like the other side of the coin. You know what I mean? It's weird how close that mass comm and like again English can get, I should say like the arts can get to science, but there's such a strong divide in terms of like coming to terms of like proving stuff or writing papers. You
Mhm.
just diverge drastically. I think I wouldn't say that I'm personally, obviously, as somebody who does English and like the arts and all, I find science to be way harder. Um, but I would dare to say that, people who do mass comm and stuff like that have an easier time transitioning into things like math and science than vice versa.
Mhm.
Because math and science have like hard rules at the very least you can pick up on.
Yeah.
Whereas when you come from a world of hard rules and writing papers with a strict structure of like, you know what I mean? Like that,
Right.
how like scientific journals are written, it's way harder to then be like, yeah, like grammar has rules, but sometimes you just get to break them because it's a nicer sentence flow, and
Right.
you just have to know when that's acceptable, and like,
Mm.
when you're gonna go film something, like, you just kind of
Mhm.
feel it. And especially too when it comes to, for instance, like history stuff, you'd think that that has hard rules, but I feel like every history class I've taken, or um, even just like things that touch on history, like honors, is like this was true until it wasn't,
Right.
and
Yeah.
everything changed, and then it went back, but it changed
Yeah.
again.
I could definitely say as a history major that, yeah, history, everybody thinks that it's a bit of a harder, like, hard rule type of discipline. Because you know what? Yes, there are truths that, like, for instance, Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo, or that America what became a country on July 4th, 1776, with the passing of the Declaration of Independence. That's true. However, the interpretation of history, that's super fluid.
Yeah.
And that is always subject to change. Because if you look at the way how, for instance, American history was taught, even like 20 years ago, or heck, even in our time when we were studying American history in elementary school, it is, I think, rather very different now.
Yeah, I would agree, not only in the fact that like, when people have their own little interpretations of history, a very small bias, right? Like, let's say like you believe that, I'm just like pulling it out of nowhere. You believe that Napoleon was taller, because people say he wasn't short. There's like debates on like, oh, how short was he really? Was it accurate for his
I
time?
believe
Like,
he was about average height for his time.
and like, was it propaganda? But let's just say that you believe
It was British
yeah.
propaganda.
Let's say like you believe, oh, I think he was actually like slightly taller, and that small amount of bias as you teach history, I feel like they can then transform. Oh, Napoleon was actually tall, and now we have a misstep right there.
Right.
Whereas the kid thinks, oh, Napoleon was actually tall. British propaganda was much more severe and effective
Mm-hmm.
than I think. And those small little inklings grow into bigger things. Like,
Right.
it trickles down, and like the British constantly use propaganda to like destroy people, which I don't
Yeah.
think is totally true. But maybe it could be. I'm just trying to give like a trickle down effect. And then once you believe that, then you get into the whole like, oh, the British were always the bad guys kind of thing, which some people
Right.
vehemently believe regardless. And that goes and it spreads and it spreads. And now everybody has somewhat true facts
Mm-hmm.
and wildly different interpretations of what
Right.
those mean, which I think is interesting, and also again makes it harder for people who like master science and math to then go into these other fields. Not to say that they're not like incredibly intelligent, though. Again, I could not do math, science, chemistry, bio, whatever.
No. Mm-hmm.
So I think you guys are way smarter than me, but I think it'd be hard. From what I know, from the people that I know who try to make that jump, they say
Right.
it's very difficult. Um, so yeah, no, I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I like that kind of dichotomy. Regardless, we all join forces at the end of the semester, be really tired and overworked, and depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of shifting gears a bit. What have been some of your highlights of the semester, since this is sort of a semester wrap up? Like, what are some of your highlights?
I definitely got to give a shout out to the WIUR Festive Frequencies event that just happened. I was very excited about it. Um, it had a rocky road getting there. A lot of the planning had to be done last minute because we kept getting stalled by a lot of red tape and whatnot. So I was worried. I was worried that, hey, as the one festive frequency that I'm overseeing as president, it's not going to go well. And I would hate for that to be like, the mark I leave on the school.
Mhm.
Couldn't be further from the truth. It went really, really well. Everybody was really excited. We had a lot of people there, a lot of energy. Everybody had a good time. We did a lot of fun and new things. And the hosts, huge shout out to both LeBron and James, which I think is really fun. That you
Yeah.
combine their names like that. They did a fantastic job at just like working the crowd when we needed time to stall to set up the next event. They did a great job just like giving out the questions and having a good time just being goofy on stage. And finally, too, huge shout out to everybody that showed up just to like hang out, not even participate. Glad you guys were there, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And to the participants, you're all winners in my book. And how about you? Give me a highlight.
Ooh, well, I think I have a couple highlights. Well, one of my earliest highlights of the semester was getting to work at an on-campus conference. Try saying that
Cool.
3 times fast. For my internship. And even though I didn't really get to talk to too many people at the conference, it was, I think, just very interesting for me to see what a graduate level conference is like. Huge shout out to my Pinnacle team, because we are about to successfully bring back 2 issues per semester. It's been a bit, but I'm really happy that I think we're actually going to be able to get this done. I can't guarantee that it's going to be in print by the time finals are done, but I can guarantee it will be out.
That's really
at
cool.
least in digital form.
It's awesome. I know you said you had multiple. Did you want to share another one? Or
I think, well, those were the 2 that immediately jumped to mind. What about
Gotcha.
you? Do you have anything else?
Let's see. I guess because WIR, like the festive frequency thing, is like so fresh in my mind that's the one that just keeps like resurfacing constantly.
I mean, you finished the student films. That was impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That was cool. It's weird. I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of my actors and my crew and my team. They all did an amazing job, but how do I put it? I guess because you work so long on something, it feels less impressive to you. You know what I mean, like that. Like I worry,
Yeah.
like it's like when you're done a paper, even if it's a really, really good paper, it's not necessarily pride you feel at the end of it, just because you've worked on it for so long.
Right.
Like maybe I'll watch it again in like a month or something. Be like, oh, I am really proud of that. But for right now, it's still just like I did the adequate amount of work that would result in this product. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
It was just a nice little pipeline to do that. But that was fun though. And shout out to, I did like seeing everybody else's films. That was really nice. We did that during our class time, had this little like film festival thing. Everybody did great. They were really fun. You can find them on YouTube if you want to go watch them. They're really cool. I think too, there's like an actual film festival coming up soon, like in the New Rochelle area, if people want to go to that. 1 or 2 of the films may be entered there. So
Cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I did think of another highlight for me. A highlight was going to the Cloisters Medieval Festival.
That is cool.
It was a very fun day. I went with my medieval literature class. It was only a few of us from the class, plus the professor who ended up going, but it was fun. It was a bit of an overcast day, but that made it, in some ways, all the better, because that meant there were less people. And it was very impressive to see stuff like the human chessboard, where part of it was goofy, but part of it was like legit stage fighting. Obviously, the most impressive part was the joust.
Ooh,
they had a
very cool.
full-on joust.
Very cool.
But it was also there I got to meet in person with some people at a graduate program I'm interested in, because they were there to kind of talk about the academic side of things, the real medieval history. Yeah, that was a really great time. That's definitely another highlight of semester for me.
It's awesome. Well, to kind of steer this towards wrapping up,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about like what are you excited for now that semester's over, like, Christmas time? Like give me one thing you're excited for. End it off on a high note.
Okay. This Christmas, what am I excited for? I think, and I'm pretty sure everybody else will agree with me, I'm excited for a break.
That's so fair. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's nice to just be able to relax.
Yeah. We used to do in my family bigger Christmases, but like with the extended family. But since COVID, that's kind of gone by the wayside. So I honestly have no plans for Christmas break, which honestly is just kind of satisfying.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
nice.
that is just, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking an intercession class. So yeah, basically my winter break is hopefully gonna be me finishing my thesis, applying to graduate school and relaxing.
Solid. That's something fun to look forward to, honestly, just being able to chill out,
Mhm.
nothing to do. If I had to give one thing, my cousin recently bought a house. We're helping fix it up. I'm
Mhm.
really, really excited to see how it turns out. I don't think it'll be fully done by the end of Christmas, but I'd like to see it. I want to see the progress. I like seeing things progress.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah, awesome. I think that pretty much brings us to it. You want to say anything else to our fans?
Yes. If you've been listening to this, thank you for listening for this semester. Have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. We'll see you in the new year.
And good luck with finals.
Yes, bye everyone. Onwards and upwards.